Welcome back. Today on Dialed In DIY, we're making a new blowgun and darts that packs a pretty powerful punch, and we're using materials that we found around the house. Strong enough to punch a hole in a can, and fun enough for target practice with some balloons. The key items you need to make this particular build you can actually find around the house, but you can also get them at a dollar store. We're using milkshake straws and T-pins. The method of our design is very much like we did in the last blowgun and darts video, but that was a slightly smaller and a little bit less powerful blowgun and darts. So let's get started. I have found T-pins to be a very handy and versatile item that I've used in a lot of different kinds of projects, but for here, we're going to start to peel one open to use to make a dart out of. We're actually going to be removing 3/4 of the top part of the T itself. You can actually clip it free, but what I'm doing here is just bending it back and forth a little bit because eventually it's going to break off at that fold. You should have now successfully turned your T-shaped pin into an L-shaped pin, and we're going to change it a little bit more by clipping that down and making a little loop at the top. What you're left with is a little bit of something that looks like a sewing needle on steroids. This is exactly the shape you're after. This little loop that we just created is going to hold our cone in place and keep it from falling out when we shoot our darts. In the previous video, we took a similar approach to making our darts, except we used straight pins. The same taping approach as we used, and I did a little bit slower of a walkthrough on that, so if you look in the description below, you'll find a link to that video if you'd like a little bit of a slower walkthrough. What we're doing is using the tape to make a cone that goes on the end of the dart itself, which will give it a lot more strength and power when you launch them. In this particular version though, we're going to use several more pieces of tape than we did the first time around. That's because we want it to be stronger, because we're getting more power when we launch our dart. This will help them to last longer too. Once you have a bunch of layers of tape on there, go ahead and stick the dart inside the straw. Let it set gently against the straw and then clip off the excess tape. Pull the dart back out and you'll notice that the tape sometimes sticks to itself, and you can just use another pin to open that right back up. I also recommend that you pinch and twist a little bit at the point where the tape meets the dart, and that will help make it a little bit more secure and aerodynamic. If you need to buy a box of these T-pins, there's a lot of projects you can do with them after you've gotten them, because they're going to come in a box of like 100 of them or so. Obviously I've used a bunch for making darts, but I've also used them to make myself some electrical connectors and test pins. Just hook a wire up to them and they work great for that. I've also used them to secure items I'm working on to a piece of wood, and I've used them instead of push pins from time to time. To give you a comparison, I also took these T-pins and made some darts for a regular size straw so that you can look at the size differences. The bigger straw allows you to make a bigger cone for your dart, which means you get bigger power. And, as far as I'm concerned, a better result. As you prepare for target practice, it's very important to take some considerations for safety in mind. It's a very smart idea to wear safety glasses to protect against ricochet. As noted earlier in the video, never take your breath once the straw is in your mouth, because that runs the risk of sucking one of these darts down your throat, and you don't want to have to take a trip to the emergency room for something like that. Believe me, these things can cause some damage, so never aim them at other people, animals, or anything else that could get damaged. Obviously, there's also places where you can't take things like this, so you want to know the rules and obey them appropriately so that you avoid getting yourself into any kind of trouble. After all, this is about having some fun. Get creative with your targets. This particular target is balloons set at 12 feet or about 3.7 meters away. You can practice on getting your aim down and have some fun. Try using a permanent marker to color your darts a couple of different colors, and then challenge a friend to a game of darts. Want to test the strength of your breath and the darts themselves? Then why not try some more challenging targets? Just keep in mind, the harder the surface, the greater the likelihood of getting a significant ricochet. This particular dart buried past the beginning of the tape into the can. Thank you for watching. Please press like and then subscribe. There will be more Dialed In DIY to come.